Hi, my name is Flo Reese, and I'm the training specialist here at Private and Public School F1 Exchange, also known as PSE. I want to welcome everyone to the Student Support Issues training. Our training is made to provide you with information and best practices that will help you reach success with PSE. You may pause the training at any time in order to catch up on any notes that you're taking. You will be completing some knowledge checks along the way, which will include some of the most important information to gain from this training. Let's get started. Here's the agenda for our training. Mediation and your role as the local coordinator. The 5 stages of mediation. Student support issues, which includes making American friends and homesickness and culture shock. And the student issues reporting procedure. PSE mediation is a means of developing workable arrangements for a host family and student in a non-confrontational setting that takes into consideration the needs of every individual. We hope to achieve a settlement of a dispute or controversy by setting up an independent person, for example a local coordinator or a field manager, between 2 contending parties in order to aid them in the settlement of their disagreement. Part of your role as a local coordinator or regional manager is to monitor students. This includes maintaining regular monthly contact with host families, students, and schools. As the local coordinator, you should try to meet with your student in person every month, but if you cannot meet with your student for 1 month, you need to meet with them in person the next month. You should meet with the host family in person, in their home, preferably with all members present, every other month. Completing monthly contact forms, or MCFs, and submitting them to the PSE office no later than the 25th of each month. All reports must be completed using the online system ZAP. Mediating conflicts between the host family and the student and helping to find a resolution. Remember to obtain support from the regional manager and/or the PSE office when needed. And monitoring students' progress in school to make sure that they're maintaining a C grade or above in all classes. There are 5 stages of the mediation process. We want you to be familiar with each stage, demonstrate the knowledge and techniques you will be learning, and apply them in your own mediation sessions. The first stage is roles and rules. The second stage is hearing the story and gathering information. The third stage is understanding points of view. The fourth stage is finding a solution. And the fifth and final stage is the expectations worksheet, an option for writing an agreement. It's important to follow each stage in the process in order to ensure that the best possible resolution is found in the end. Stage 1, Roles and Rules. The purpose of Stage 1 is to review roles, set ground rules, and reach an agreement to mediate. First, explain your role as a mediator. You can say something like, "As you know, I'm your local coordinator, and I'm here to help you solve your problem." Then, explain the mediation process. Mediation is voluntary. I'm not a judge, and I won't take sides or decide who is right or wrong. Each of you will have a chance to talk about the situation. It's important that you listen carefully to what the other person is saying. I will ask both of you to say what you heard the others say about the situation and how they're feeling about it. I will then talk about what each of you needs in order to solve the conflict and get a solution you both think is fair. An agreement may be written and signed if you choose. Everything that is said in here is confidential, except anything you choose to share with us that is illegal or may be harmful to you or someone else. Please keep in mind that the local coordinator may discuss the information with the field manager and the PSE office, as this might be important information in order to assist the student and the host family. So please consult with your field manager and the PSE office if you feel the information needs to be shared, or if you need assistance in determining the next steps. Stage 2, Hearing the story and gathering information. The purpose of Stage 2 is to allow each person to tell his or her story and express their own feelings. First, ask the parties to describe how they see the situation and how they feel about it. You can say something like, "Tell me what happened and how you're feeling." Remember, students often state what they think as opposed to how they feel. Use active listening and assist them in identifying feelings. Identifying feelings is crucial in helping disputants to feel heard and in reducing intense and hostile feelings. You can help them identify their feelings with a feelings vocabulary, helping them use words to describe how they feel. Ask appropriate open-ended questions in order to get more information. For example, tell me more about, or how long has this problem been going on? Restate the main points and feelings using your own words. So you're saying that, or it sounds like you're feeling. Also, allow the parties to respond to each other. This may occur several times in order to get out all of the information. Would you like to respond? Or would you like to add anything? Stage 3, Understanding Points of View. The purpose of Stage 3 is to allow the participants to understand each other's feelings and points of view. Explain that you will ask both of them to say what they heard each other say. Explain that understanding is different from agreeing with the other person. Say something like, in order to make sure that you both understand the other's point of view, we will ask you to say or summarize what you've heard the other person say. Remember, understanding the other's point of view does not mean that you agree. Ask the parties to summarize each other's point of view and feelings about the situation. Say, Minyu, would you tell me what you heard Carol say about the situation and how she's feeling about it? Then, check to make sure what was said was heard correctly. If there was a misunderstanding, have them say again what they meant. Did he hear you correctly? If not, ask, what are the most important things you want him to understand? Summarize the main points, identifying the common views and feelings. Say things like, I heard you say, or as I understand the situation. Stage 4, Finding a Solution. The purpose of Stage 4 is to brainstorm ideas and negotiate a fair solution to the problem. Explain that you will now help them to brainstorm ideas in order to find a fair solution to their situation. Say something like, we will now brainstorm ideas for a solution, one that you all feel is fair and one that you can live with. Brainstorming means thinking of as many ideas as you can without judging or evaluating them. We will go back and see which ones will work for you. Ask each party to say what they need or what they think would be a fair solution. Encourage both parties to give more than one idea. Ask, what ideas do you have? What do you think would be a fair solution to the situation? What do you need in order to solve this situation? Remember to encourage them to come up with their own ideas. If they have difficulty thinking of something, you can always say, if this situation happened again, what would you do differently next time to prevent it? Or, if I were in your position, what advice would you give me? Assist parties to negotiate a solution that is fair for both of them. Say something like, you have suggested the following ideas, or, which of these do you think is fair to both of you? Stage 5, Expectations Worksheet, and the option of writing an agreement, which would be optional for the host family, but might be a requirement for the student if a positive action plan or PAP is required. The purpose of Stage 5 is to make sure the Expectations Worksheet is filled out in its entirety and current. If needed, write an additional agreement that is fair and clearly defines how terms will be carried out. And congratulate the disputants for their hard work and for reaching an agreement. Write the agreement and read the agreement and allow for any changes if necessary. Have each party sign the agreement if they choose. Say, this agreement is a record of what each of you agreed to and shows that you are serious about resolving this problem. Consider and discuss the consequences of a broken agreement. What if? What if a month from now? How do you think it could be handled differently from this time? Ask parties if they are willing to come back to mediation first if this agreement breaks down. If this agreement doesn't work, are you willing to come back to mediation? Can we write that in the agreement? Congratulate and acknowledge the parties for coming to an agreement. Say, congratulations on working so hard to find a fair solution to your situation. Also, tell the student and the host family that you'll call them back in 1 week to find out if the agreement has worked so far. Remember that follow-up is key. Also, make sure you notify your field manager or supervisor of any and all details from this meeting. If determined, the PSE office will prepare a positive action plan for delivery. Here are the top 6 tips for a successful mediation. Tip number 1. Find a quiet place with ample time to meet. A neutral meeting location, such as the local coordinator home instead of the host family home, may be needed in some cases. Make sure there's enough time to sit, talk, and calmly reach an agreement. Tip number 2. Include all parties who are impacted by the problem so that all are involved in making a decision for resolution. For example, don't meet when one host parent or affected sibling is unavailable, as the left out person may disagree or even sabotage the agreement later. Do not include those who are not impacted by the problem. Tip number 3. Talk to all the parties at the beginning of the mediation about using I statements and reflective listening, in other words, restating the other person's statement in your own words to check for correct understanding, including the core feeling behind the statement, and to assure them they have been heard. As the mediator, make sure you are doing reflective listening as well. Lead by example. This may be an uncommon way of communicating for some families. Tip number 4. Brainstorm together all possible solutions, accepting all options until the evaluation phase. Evaluate and choose together a solution that all parties agree to, but don't accept a quick solution that feels forced as a way to end the conversation. Trust your instincts and watch body language of all parties involved in the conversation. Make explicit the implicit. For example, Johnny, your folded arms suggest to me that you're not feeling okay with this decision. Share with us how you're thinking or feeling right now. Tip number 5. Once all parties have agreed to a reasonable solution that they feel is a win-win, ask each party individually if they're ready to move forward and implement this solution. Again, watch body language carefully. If so, move on to implementation, and if not, revisit the other possible solutions from the brainstorming session. And tip number 6, follow up, and remember to follow up. Check back with all parties involved periodically. Silence does not necessarily mean everything is going great. On the contrary, if a problem arises unchecked and without follow-up from the mediator, the upset party is likely to want to throw in the towel on the hosting relationship completely, and the first time you hear about it will be during a big blow-up. Checking back in frequently allows the steam, if there is any, out of the pressure cooker slowly so that you don't reach the blowing up point. Here's a special tool. At stores such as Home Depot or Lowe's, you can get a small square flooring sample of vinyl floor, for example 3 inches by 3 inches. Pick up a few for free and keep them in your local coordinator bag of tricks. During very heated discussions, this becomes a way of managing the conversation. Only the person holding the square, or the person who has the floor, is allowed to talk. This will slow the conversation down to a manageable level and rate and volume, and allow people to speak their minds and genuinely feel heard. More often than not, simply the act of feeling truly heard is enough to resolve a conflict. If your student asks for your help with making American friends, here's some guidance on how to make American friends during their stay in the United States. They could introduce themselves to fellow classmates. Ask another student about homework. Make a student buddy, or join a study group. Join a club or sport. Smile and be friendly. Make sure that you are following up with your student to see how things are progressing. Culture shock is the physical and emotional discomfort experienced when living in a culture with different values, perceptions, cultural norms, and beliefs that threaten a person's understanding of what he or she thought to be right. Here are some symptoms of culture shock and homesickness: sadness and frustration, boredom and withdrawal, the desire to sleep too much or too little, a lack of motivation, feelings of inadequacy, crying and/or physical discomfort. If your student is experiencing culture shock, you can be supportive by discussing adjustment and working together to identify the problem. There are a number of strategies to counter culture shock, and with your support, the challenges of the adjustment process can be overcome. These are some ideas you may want to discuss with your student. Have realistic expectations. Accept that culture shock is part of the exchange student experience and a difficult challenge. Give yourself some time to adjust. Be open-minded. Avoid judging things as either right or wrong. Regard them as merely different. Appreciate differences. Recognize the advantages of learning to live in a culture different from your own. Be curious. Observe how people in your new environment act in situations that are confusing to you. Don't be too hard on yourself. Don't constantly focus on the difficulties. Regain energy by doing something you enjoy, for example, cooking or listening to music, reading, but don't just keep taking constant time-outs. Remember your strength. Remember the ways you've been able to reduce stress in difficult situations in the past, and consider applying those methods in your present circumstances. Now, let's explore the student issues reporting procedures set forth by PSE. First, the host family reports the issue to the local coordinator. Then, the local coordinator contacts the field manager to discuss the issue and receive feedback on how to resolve the issue. Next, the local coordinator talks to the host family and student both separately and together to gain all sides of the story. This is where mediation will occur if needed. Next, the local coordinator obtains a host family statement and a student statement. Then, the local coordinator and field manager emails detailed facts and timeline to the PSC office, copying the regional manager and field manager, along with the host family and student statements and a recommendation, if any, of a disciplinary letter. The expectations worksheet should be included also. Then the PSE office will review the issue, notify the sending organization, and if necessary, a disciplinary letter may be prepared and sent to the field manager, regional manager, and sending organization. Then the local coordinator meets with the student to deliver the disciplinary letter and mediate the conversation between the host family and student. Ensure the host family and student understand the terms of the disciplinary action, and obtain the host family and student signatures. The local coordinator will then return the signed letter to the PSE office as soon as possible. This training was meant to provide you with the skills and knowledge necessary to help you have a successful mediation experience with your students and host families. Please remember to stay calm during the mediation session. If you stay calm, then it will help to regulate and prevent any escalated emotions which could damage the process. It's always best to address issues sooner than later. Resolving a smaller issue is much easier than waiting for it to turn into something much larger. Communication is key to success for any student and host family issues. Don't forget to keep your field manager involved throughout the process in order to best assist you with any issues.